This is the video tutorial for the variables and patterns review for test 1, number 1. Alright, number 1 reads, this table shows the money Teresa earns for babysitting. And we have the table here, we have number of hours, money, and it spells out everything you need to know. It says make a coordinate graph of this data. Make sure to include all necessary elements. And this is worth 12 points. The reason why it's worth 12 points is there's a lot to put here. And then you can add rows or columns if you need to. Alright, in class we always discussed how we want to get the easy things out of the way. So we need to know what are some of the easy things. Okay, one of those easy things is a title. So what's going on here? Table shows the money Teresa earns for babysitting, so we could say Teresa's earnings as our title. Okay, the other two things are the variables, but knowing that you have to put variables down is not enough. You got to figure out which variable is independent and which variable is dependent. Well, now that we've been through this in class, the quick and easy way to cheat pretty much is to come up here and see number of hours is on the top of the chart because it's horizontal. If it was a vertical chart, it would have to be on the left. But since number of hours is on the top, you know that's independent. And money is on the bottom, so that's going to be dependent. But why are these two variables independent and dependent the way they are? The amount of money that Teresa makes is going to depend on the number of hours she works. So these numbers depend on these numbers. So therefore, this variable is the dependent variable. Now that we have our title and variables down, what's next? We need to add our scales. Just out of habit, I always like to do the independent scale first because the x-axis always comes first. When you're plotting points, you always go in the x direction first. One of the things that you got to keep in mind is when you're making a scale, you need to, each interval has to go up by the exact same amount. Well, if we look at our intervals up here, they're going up by 1 every time. Another thing we need to consider is a good number of intervals to have is something close to 10. Well, up here we have 8, so that's a good close number to 10, so we'll put those down just as is. We're just going to copy right from the table. The harder scale is usually the Y scale, or the dependent scale. So are we allowed to just put these numbers right on the lines going up? The answer is no, because they're not going up by even amounts. This one goes from 0 to 4, so it goes up 4. Then here it goes up 350, then here it goes up 3, then here it goes up 3, then here it goes up 3, then here it goes up 1. So you can see they don't go up by even amounts or steady amounts. So if she works 0 hours here, obviously she would have $0 for her earnings. And if she works 8 hours, she'll make $19.50. So you could say our range of numbers goes from 0 to 20. So if we want to shoot for 10 intervals, we could go by 2s up to 20, or we could go by 3s up to 21. Either one's close. The only reason I'm going to go by 3s is just because there's not a lot of room on the graph. The best answer would probably be to go by 2s, but I'm going to put by 3s here. Alright, so now that we have our table set up, we have our scales set up. So we have our title, our variables, the independent, dependent, and our two scales. What are we going to do now? Some of you are going to say, I want to put my x and y axis. You don't have to, but it's a great habit to get into. So sure, let's put the x and y axis down. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to plot the points. It probably would have been a good idea to add another row here, or actually another column here that had 0 hours, and she'd make $0. So assuming we had that column, the first point we would plot would be right 0, because we always go in the x direction first. So right 0, then up 4. Then the next point would be right I'm sorry, right 0, up 0. It would be right 0, up 0. Then the next point would be right 1, up 4. Then right 2, up 750. Then right 3, up 1050. And so on. So we're going to plot all of our points. Okay, so once we have our points plotted, we are done part A. Alright, B says, would it make sense to connect the points on your graph? This is a very tough question. We got to think carefully here. We have time down here and we have money here. Can time be split? Yes. Can money be split? Yes. However, we have to consider the entire problem. Teresa's getting paid by the hour. Would it make sense if you babysat for 1 hour and 6 minutes? Are you going to get paid for exactly 1 hour and 6 minutes? Are the parents going to take out a calculator and figure out exactly what they owe you? Or are they going to round to some easy number? Maybe an hour and a half, maybe they'll round up to 2 hours, maybe they'll be cheapskates and round down to an hour. But you're not going to get paid by the minute or even by the second. So in this case, no, it does not make sense to connect the points. So we pretty much answered C at the same time, and to sum up what we just said, Teresa isn't paid by the second. Alright, D says, using the table, which is up here, describe the pattern of change in the money earned as the number of hours increases. The way that I like to answer questions like this is just to restate what the back half of this sentence is asking you. So I would start by saying, as the number of hours increase, comma, and then I have to collect my thoughts and figure out what do I want to say here. Okay, so as the number of hours increase, what's happening? As the number of hours increase, here they're increasing, what is happening? The amount of money she earns is increasing as well. See, I can see it going up. That's a good answer for starters, but you actually know more. Tell me more about this problem. What else can you say? It does not increase at a steady rate. You can tell by looking at the numbers. You can take a sneak peek at the graph and you can see that. And at this point, you know that means non-linear. We can also say it increases at a slower rate as the hours go by. From 0 to 1 it went up 4, then 350, then 3, then 3, then 3, then 1, then 1, then 1. So we can say it increases at a slower rate as the hours go by. Okay, so E says, how is this pattern shown in the graph? Okay, it looks as if the points are being placed at higher money amounts at each successive hour interval. We also know that it is not a straight line because the rate of increase is not constant. In other words, it's not linear. Okay, we've been answering this question all along. Is the graph linear? Why or why not? And we look at it. No, the points are not going up at a constant rate. They're not going up in a straight line. Alright, the lengths of these videos are all going to vary depending on the size of the question. This question happened to have multiple parts to it, so this was a longer video. Most videos hover around the 4 to 5 minute mark. This one happens to be close to a 10-minute video. This ends the tutorial for number 1 for variables and patterns, the review for test 1. Now you can move on to the second question.